on the declaration proper?
Pacific.
Thank you. Again, from the Pacific, we would like to insert climate change and its impacts. Yeah, at the beginning, the first line. Thanks.
Climate change and its impacts.
Okay.
From East Asia, there is a general comment on page 2. It says the declaration or enumerations on page 2 should open with or include a statement putting human rights at the heart or in the center of international climate change policy. And then the other specific declarations could follow.
Can we request a formulation, a language for it?
We try to bring
Can I
it in.
request Wu Qing to state it clearly?
Yes, Wu Jing, please.
The end has human rights, but you think it's not strong enough of A. It says, and respect human rights. Is that not strong enough, according to your group?
No, may I request Wu Qing to state it clearly so we can include it specifically
Perfect.
on the...
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then specific comment. Climate change must be understood up to and respect to human rights and sensitive to indigenous knowledge and traditions. Please include human rights and sensitivity to indigenous knowledge and traditions. That's an inclusion.
Where is it going to be inserted, Sonia?
Respect.
Where? Which part to be inserted?
Last line of letter A.
Okay. So can you go on?
Following respect to human rights and sensitivity to indigenous knowledge and traditions.
No objections? Okay.
No objections to the proposed amendment? Okay.
Any
Yes,
other
please.
Actually,
Can you come to
if
the
I may
floor?
continue, actually there's another suggestion. Disaster risk management measures instead of disaster risk reduction.
Management.
Wait. So you're amending disaster risk reduction to disaster risk management. Okay, next, please.
May
Oh,
we,
wait.
may we
Just-
give our suggestion from this table?
Oh, okay, hang on. There's an objection on this side.
It's not an objection, it's a suggestion actually. Just to emphasize also disaster risk reduction in this particular paragraph. Okay. We propose that this 8th paragraph be read as climate change and disaster risk reduction must be understood as a development issue, and so on and so forth. And concerted efforts are required by all stakeholders to ensure that their measures are gender responsive and respect human rights. Thank you.
Any more? Yes, please.
May I just please make an intervention? At this stage of the proceedings, are we just limiting ourselves to amendments, revisions, enhancements of what are specifically stated in the proposed document? Or can we still be allowed to make recommendations for what should we feel still be included in the draft?
That should have happened already yesterday.
Yes, we realize that. That's why we're asking for permission or leave if we can still make some of these interventions, because this group here feels very strongly that even as we are talking about government or state countries' role in climate change mitigation and all the other international organizations and the like, what about individuals' roles and responsibilities?
Okay, so
We
you're
feel
asking...
that should be
Yeah.
We feel that there should be included statement to the effect that we start with ourselves as
Okay.
individuals.
Okay.
That's very-
Can we do it this way? Can you draft the proposed language and we'll take it up at the end? Let's first focus on what
Yes,
we've got,
okay.
okay?
Yes, thank
Otherwise, we
you.
won't have any document to endorse. Okay?
The word management is still there. I understood that we decided to drop that and say disaster risk measures. The word management is still there. I thought we decided to drop the word management, disaster risk management. Management should be dropped and say disaster risk measures or disaster risk reduction.
What was the feeling of the group on that one?
Yeah, can I ask?
So back to disaster risk reduction.
Wait,
Yes?
yes.
Do I hear you? Okay. I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, carried. So back to
Hello.
disaster risk reduction. Oh, over here. Yes.
Oh, yes, that's right. I'd like to make one explanation. There was a suggestion to say climate change and disaster risk reduction. But climate change is a problematic area, whereas disaster risk reduction is a strategy. So that's why we kind of divided both. So we started with climate change, must be understood as a development issue, and then we talk about disaster risk reduction measures as a strategy. So it has different levels of analysis, and that's why we kind of divided it. Is that agreeable with the group who wanted to bring in disaster risk reduction here? Yeah?
I
Are
think
you
there's a
getting it?
related point. So Pacific, please.
Thank you. We quite agree with the suggestion. However, we thought to accommodate everybody's view on the first line, just on that first line of that para, impacts of climate change and disasters must be understood. And what follows that are all in the context of your umbrella statement. Impacts of climate change and disasters must be understood as development issues. Thank you.
Can we use climate change impacts because disasters are impacts?
But perhaps we want to point it out disasters as a development issue as well, because there are other disasters that spin off from the direct impact of climate change, which is still a development issue.
Okay, then it would read climate change impacts and disasters must be understood. That's better then. Then you have a parallel entity.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay, carried. Okay, next, please. Climate change impacts and disasters must be understood as a development issue.
Okay.
Okay, please.
As development issues.
Thank you. I think that the original version, which had only climate change, is a wider and more relevant concept in development, because if we say climate change impacts, we limit now this area and exclude energy development, forestry, agriculture, and so on. We limit ourselves only to the impacts.
That was our thinking behind that. Can Pacific live with not bringing in impacts here, but further in the text? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we go back to the old text. Climate change must. And disasters. Climate change and disasters.
Okay.
Can everybody live with that now? Okay, shall we move on?